Hello, good evening, Hari Om. I welcome all the viewers who are watching live from different platforms. Today's topic of discussion, achieving human potential, something that intrigues each and every one of us. We have here with us two eminent speakers, Dr. Janki Santoke. Welcome, Janki ji.
Hari Om.
And Shashi Tharoor. Shashi has been my good friend for some time. So good to see you, Shashi. How are you doing?
Touch wood, not too bad. I think so far so good.
Okay. Does it sound very cliched if I say Shashi Tharoor doesn't need any introduction?
I think the subject is what we want to get into, so don't worry about introducing me.
Okay, great. So for those of you who don't know who he is, Dr. Shashi Tharoor has been an international diplomat living in the US and based in New York and Geneva, working for the UN for more than 3 decades. He gave up this very cushy job to plunge into politics and move back to India just to serve the nation. He went on to become a 3-time parliamentarian. He got elected from his home state, Kerala, Thiruvananthapuram. He was also minister 2 times, External Affairs and HRD. And apart from being an international diplomat and a politician, he's a writer. He started writing at a very young age of 6 or 7 years. He's been a columnist. He's been in Times of India and the Hindu while still living abroad. He's written something like 21 books. And some of his early books are The Great Indian Novel, which is a satire on Mahabharata, and the more recent one, Why I Am a Hindu. I'm picking these 2 books just to show that he's always been interested in scriptures. And Mahabharata with so many characters, I was amazed when I read that book. And so he's interested in scriptures and life and living. So who better than him to talk about this with Dr. Janki ji? So Dr. Janki Santoke, we lovingly call her Janki ji. She's a student and proponent of Vedanta. She's also a PhD in philosophy. And she lived in ashram to complete her Vedantic studies. She's contributed in various different ways for last 3 decades. She's been a corporate trainer. She's got this YouTube channel, which is Team Janki Santoke, where she posts these small videos and long videos based on different subjects and topics, making this knowledge available for each and every one of us that can be accessed by everybody. And she's been taking classes in Mumbai for more than 3 decades. Because of the pandemic, she went online, and because of that, people like me can watch her live, discuss, interact, and clear our doubts. Janki ji is also a columnist. She's been writing for Times of India and Economic Times, and she's recently authored a book called How Do You Know What You Know? So some of her interests are Sanskrit and English literature. So when we attend her classes, we not only learn Vedanta, we learn a bit of Sanskrit and English literature. What more can we ask, Janki ji? We welcome you. I don't want to take much of the time, so I leave it to you to start the discussion.
Okay. Thank you, Deepa.
Thank you, Deepa. I frankly see myself as the chela here to Janki ji as the guru, and I'm really going to approach this conversation as somebody from, shall we say, what we would like to think of as the real world. I'm sure Janki ji would disabuse me of that distinction. And just to explore with you, because the very topic was suggested by your team, Janki ji, and that's achieving human potential. And I thought that the best thing to do for our audience, which consists of ignoramuses like me, and perhaps even worse than me, is to start off with the very basics. What do you mean when you talk about human potential? What is the human potential that you believe each human being can achieve?
The human potential is really the greatest human potential is really that we can all seek, pursue, and obtain realization, enlightenment, which means a state of complete bliss and beatitude of understanding everything about life. This is the real human potential. But on a more practical level, we have another aspect to our personality. This is referring to the self within us. But we have another aspect, the matter element in us, our body, mind, and intellect. So our body, mind, and intellect also has a potential. So we have our potential in terms of what we can do, achieve in the world, plus we have this great human ability of actually reaching enlightenment. Of course, the good news is that both these things require the same sort of methodology. And that's what makes life so interesting, that if you do the right thing, you get both. You get all the benefits of the potential of your body, mind, and intellect, plus you reach enlightenment. Like, what more? This is the greatness of being a human being.
Fascinating, except that, for many people, I must say that the way it often comes across is that Hindu philosophy, Vedanta, seems to talk about self-realization, detachment, all of these concepts that seem unrelated to people's real lives. In real terms, we all have to work, sustain families, pass examinations, get good jobs, achieve whatever goals people see in the real world. I think Adi Shankara in his Bhaja Govindam 1,000 years ago wrote about how all human beings are motivated to greater or lesser extent by two very material pursuits: acquisition, gaining material success in the world around them, and enjoyment, deriving happiness or pleasure from their life. You seem to be talking about something that overlooks that basic reality of most human beings' experience. So are they not fulfilling their human potential when they succeed in their career, or ace their exams, or become good at their jobs, or make lots of money?
Interesting. Yes, it is true that most human beings are spending their time and attention on doing that. But I think it is definitely arguable that when your entire attention is only on obtaining some more success, acquiring something, or on enjoying something, you actually keep yourself from being able to do it well. You actually, each one of us, because we focus on the wrong thing, deny our own potential to ourselves. And when I'm talking about potential now, I'm talking about our capacity to earn, and our capacity to be happy, and our capacity to have relationships. Like words like detachment and moksha and all that floating around in our society are simply misunderstood words. Detachment is a practical way that we can live. But the way it comes across and the way people are, throwing this term along, it appears that you have to get away from everything. But why is that thought there? Krishna is the height of detachment. What is he getting away from? Is he just showing? Janaka is detached. He's running a kingdom. Rama is detached. He's running a kingdom. What are these people going away from? Where did we get this notion? In fact, in the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna is saying, I don't want to fight. And Krishna is saying, you go there and fight the war. Don't give me all your nakra. Go there and fight the war and be victorious. So it is actually a practical way for us to derive the best out of our lives and the best out of ourselves. But we don't know what these terms mean. And we throw them around as if, and then we say, it's also bad, which is like throwing the baby out with the bath water. It's like, calling a dog mad and killing it. Hi, please, when we say detachment, first question, what is the definition? That should be the question. No, I understand detachment and it's a very bad thing. Okay, we denied ourselves something.
Please define it for me, Janki ji.
Okay, so detachment is nothing but the intellect governing our actions. And the moment our intellect learns to govern our actions, we will be able to achieve anything. The reason a person can't do well in his exams, why is it? Think about it. He may have studied a lot. Okay, first step is, has he studied? If his intellect works to that extent, he has got himself to study. But even after studying a lot, he can reach the exam paper and really not perform as well as he's capable. Why not? Because at that paper, it blanks out. Why does it blank out? The mind has taken over. The intellect has switched off. We all know how to answer every question 2 days after it was asked. Why? Because at that time, the intellect simply wasn't working. As a politician, you know this, people go up there and suddenly say the weirdest things like, what are you thinking? What do you think you were saying? They say it. Why? Blanks out. In an interview, people don't ace the interview. Why? You're going there, you're craving, longing for the job. You can't put your best foot forward. You like a girl, you want to speak to her. You can't even do that. Detachment is your intellect capable of ruling your action. That means you don't get carried away with your mind, but you do what needs to be done. And if you can execute that much, you will get the natural results. The world works on cause and effect.
Sorry to interrupt, but for most people, your intellect is part of your mind. How exactly do you draw the distinction between intellect and mind?
Okay, mind and intellect are both human thoughts. They're classified in Vedanta in two categories: the
Manas
mind,
and buddhi.
manas,
Manas
and
and
buddhi. Correct. So, manas is your emotions, your likes and dislikes, your whims and fancies, your conditioning. Everything you feel like doing is the mind. Intellect is discrimination, reason, judgment, viveka. When you're able to follow your discrimination and keep your mind under your governance, you will achieve.
Okay, so let's get back, because the other complication that one often finds in talking to philosophers like yourself is you draw a distinction between the body, the mind, the intellect, the three things that all of us know we are. When we say, I am, or when the old famous Latin line, cogito ergo sum, I think, therefore I am, that the mind is what makes me who I am. And in that case, no distinction between mind and intellect, though we have it in India. But you also draw a distinction between all of those three things together, body, mind, and intellect, and the so-called real self. So what is the real self that is not body, mind, and intellect? Because when you speak of self-realization, often you're speaking of something beyond body, mind, and intellect, aren't you?
Yes, definitely. You're talking about being more than your body, mind, and intellect. Your body perceives and acts. That's what the body does. The mind goes through emotions. That's what the mind does. The intellect has discrimination, reason. That's what the intellect does. And there is something else within all of us, a much wider dimension, a universal dimension, which is the same for all of us. To deny ourselves that aspect is tragic. But what is it? What is it? That each one will have to find out for himself. Ramana Maharishi said, Nanyar, who are you? Find out. You know. When I say, who are you? You say, I am Shashi Tharoor. I am Janki Santoke. But that is just our name. Say, I'm an Indian, but that's my nationality. Okay, I'm a human, but that's my species. Who are you? I am a woman. That's your gender. I am, whatever you think about, it is an attribute. Who are you? You yourself. Without all these attributes, just you, the I that you're referring to. This is what a human being needs to find out. And it's
But
a question of,
we find out using our mind and our intellect. So
that's right.
are we not back at that same square one?
That's
Or that
a very
triangle
good
one,
question.
body, mind, intellect? Yeah.
That's right. It's an excellent question. Yes, you do find it using your body, mind, and intellect. But your body, mind, and intellect are tools. To actually know yourself, you have to be able to get away from that. You use it and you drop it. Just like pole vaulting. To get up to that high level, you use the pole. But to get across, you have to drop the pole. You have to throw it back. You can't throw it forward. So exactly the same is the spiritual path. You go up, up, up as much as your body, mind, intellect can go. Purify it to whatever extent. And then you jump out and you see who you really are. It's not like you become different. You just understand something. It's not, understand is also a borrowed term because it's not an intellectual comprehension. So there's no real word for it. It is, that's why we say realization, enlightenment. These are just words. It doesn't convey anything. But nobody can teach you who you are. You will have to find this for yourself.
It's still a very abstract concept, because obviously when one speaks of understanding, one's talking about the intellect. When one speaks of feeling or talks about you know it when you've got it, then you're talking about the mind. How do we understand this attribute beyond terms of mind and intellect? It's something that, frankly, many people have a difficulty grasping. And I know there are people who spent far more time than me and far less time than you in figuring out for themselves what this concept is that you're describing, but help people like me who are interested and are yet not fully equipped to understand. Now, for example, if you ask me, you ask the question, who are you? And I would say that who I am is a compound of my body with all its frailties and flaws, my mind, which has definitely also frailties and flaws, and my intellect, which I've trained as much as possible to reduce and, if possible, eliminate frailties and flaws, but which has its limitations. Now, those things collectively tell me who I am. Now, you tell me there is a real self beyond that. Now, to get to it, now I've read a fair amount of Hindu scripture and Hindu philosophy, but that is, I suppose, what you would call jnana yoga. It is through knowledge from the written word. In my case, because I don't have much Sanskrit, it's the translated written word that I'm very often reading. Or if I have to read Hindu philosophy in English, I would read Swami Vivekananda, who essentially preached and taught in English. I would read works like yours. I have this with me, for example, How Do You Know What You Know? But at the same time, I'm troubled. I mean, so let's say, for example, we tell people about doing the right thing. In the case of Krishna telling Arjuna, he had to fulfill his dharma. And I very much understand and value the concept of swadharma. Each of us must figure out what our own dharma is and fulfill it. So Krishna's dharma, being a divine figure, was different from Arjuna's dharma as a warrior. Now, you have to figure out your own path according to your own nature. That makes sense. We all understand that. Where does conscience come in, for example? Is conscience a sense of knowing what is the right thing to do? Is that emerging from your mind? Is that emerging from your intellectual training as to what is right and what is wrong? Or is it emerging from this self that I have not yet been able to get my full grasp of?
Okay, so I'll answer it in two stages. The first stage about trying to identify what the self is, we don't go directly to the self. We start adopting the methodology that is required. And the methodology that's required is creating purity and clarity. So we go there because just inquiry into the self is not going to get us anywhere. So you have to leave that for the moment, knowing that that's where we are headed, but we have to get down to methodology. So that's the first bit that you spoke about. And the second bit about what is conscience. Conscience is nothing but the subtle intellect. There's a sthul buddhi and a sukshma buddhi. Our intellect, every human being, by the fact of being a human being, has an intellect. And the intellect is of two kinds. The gross intellect, the sthula buddhi, is that which is able to do discrimination within the world. Okay, so if you have a strong intellect like you have, you will be very good with discrimination within the world. You will say, I can tell this from that. I can go all the way up to nuclear physics, astrophysics. I can do all of this stuff because my intellect is very good. Okay, so that is my discrimination in the world. When I say tall and short, big and small, all of this is my discrimination, from the very simple things to all the way up to quantum physics. All of it comes under the gross intellect. Beyond this, we have another intellect, another type of discrimination, which is the discrimination between the world and something beyond the world. This ability that a human being has, every human being has it, including the atheist. You may say, does the atheist have this? Of course he has it. Because suppose I ask you a question such as, do you believe in quid pro? What will you say? You will say, well, what is quid pro? But the atheist is not saying that. The atheist is saying, I don't believe in God. To say that I don't believe in God means you have already conceived that possibility. So an atheist or a developed spiritual person, everybody has this subtle intellect. I don't want to imply that atheists are not spiritually developed, because they may be highly spiritually developed too, but they choose not to talk about this matter because everybody is just talking nonsense about it, so they get fed up. So the subtle intellect is the intellect that distinguishes between the world, the entire world on one side, and something else. Now, this capacity also translates as the conscience within us. This is not conditioned. It is that in us which is pointing northwards. It is not giving us reason. It is not telling us why. There is something within me that tells me this cannot be done. Now, if I ask it, why can't I do it? I will lose so much if I don't do it. This cannot be done. It's just a direction towards that. So every one of us has it. The greater the desires within us, the more it gets covered within us. And the fewer the desires within us, the more that conscience speaks to us.
Now, when you spoke about purity and clarity, I don't think you mean the terms quite the way in which ordinary people would understand it, right? For you, purity relates to unselfishness at an essential level, the ability to act without regard for self-gain. And clarity still ties you to a sense of right, but a sense of right that surely comes from your intellect. But I suppose you would say this is the subtle intellect. Is that right?
Not really. When you're dealing with the world, it is the gross intellect. So these are the two things as a human being we need to develop. This capacity to think beyond ourselves. As a doctor, if I only think of the big 5-bedroom house I'm going to have in my Mercedes, I'm never going to be able to perform well, because the moment the patient comes in, I'm looking at his wallet, not at his illness. So when I think like that, obviously my mind is distracted. So I'm not going to put my best foot forward. I'm too distracted by, I want this, I want this, I want this, I want this. Okay, chill, you'll get it. Just do it the right way. Nothing wrong in getting a 5-bedroom house. Please get it. Every citizen should have it. Being prosperous is a great thing. Ram Rajya means everybody is prosperous, not a few people. Everybody is prosperous. And prosperity is a good thing. Poverty is a bad thing. If people don't have food to eat or don't have safe drinking water, this is an insult to all humanity. It's a bad thing. Poverty is no good thing. We want prosperity. But there's a way to get it. And the way to get it, the real way to get it, is if each one of us is able to think beyond ourselves. If a politician thinks about the country, if the doctor thinks about the patient, if the teacher thinks about the students, as we are able to purify ourselves in understanding that my work is divine, it's important. Businesses have done such great service to us. We look upon business as some kind of problem in this world. It's very business minded. It's like such a bad way to look at business. If there's no business, how is this country supposed to progress? Business is a good thing.
And but business is a selfish thing. Business is looking for profit.
No, that's what's going wrong. That's where the catch in this whole story is. J.R.D. Tata set up one of the best businesses. Where is the urge for profit? getting profit for a business is like the human body getting oxygen. If the human body didn't have oxygen, it won't survive. However, we don't live for breathing. We get that oxygen and then we use it hopefully for some good in this world. So the business exists to serve. And if it doesn't make profit, it cannot exist. So how is it going to do any service? So when it changes from like even now in the pandemic, how have we survived? It's because the businesses are working. We wouldn't get dal, sabji, roti if these businesses closed down. It's all being produced, it's being sent to the market, and it's being sent to our homes, which is great. Thank you so much. Otherwise, I would have nothing to eat. I would have to start, planting and growing things in the Bombay house, which can't be done. So thank you very much for all the business. And you have done us great service. Thank you. But if you yourself did it with the service intent, then what will happen is the mind will be very calm. When the mind becomes calm, the intellect will start thinking. And these choices which we have, will suddenly not be those horrible choices. I must either make money or I must die. No, life is full of a million choices. Work for the common good. Work for what Gita calls loka sangraha. And you will be pushed to the highest position. You will not ask for it. You will not demand it. You will just be pushed there. And if you look at even our prime ministers, almost every prime minister in this country has been people who said, I don't want it. P.V. Narasimha Rao.
You can't accuse the present Prime Minister of that, I don't think.
I don't know. I'm not going there, but just see. Rajiv Gandhi said, I don't want it. P.V. Narasimha Rao said, I don't want it. Everybody's saying, I don't want it. And when they say, I don't want it, we are pushing it on them.
Right.
Why?
But let me summarize where we've got to so far as I understand it. I mean, you've said that essentially we need to develop a sort of technique, as it were, to realize the real self, purity of unselfishness and goals, clarity in terms of developing our subtle intellect.
No, developing a gross intellect. So this is the second part of unselfishness.
Okay.
The second part is that you could be very good-natured. You could have the best of intentions. You could still mess up. That is the story of Yudhishthira. Yudhishthira was a great guy. He was a wonderful guy. He was supposed to be king. He lived his life in the forest. This is a mess. And if Krishna was not there, he would have died in the forest also. So you not only need the intent of service, but you need the intellect to know how to handle it. Because as you go up in life, life's challenges become very different. So you must have the ability to deal with it. You're not going to meet all the best people and all the noble people. You're very noble. The rest of the world may not be noble. So you need to know how to deal with it. And if you don't know how to deal with it, that is what will happen, which is happening to most good people. They get trod over. They become doormats. They are like finished. No, you need to have the intent of service and you need to have the brains to be able to execute that.
Yeah, I think I get you, but it seems to me that there's degrees of selfishness in that case, because a business has to be selfish, and Mr. Tata wants to be the Tata that he is. He's not entirely unselfish. He has to outsell his competitors. He has to deliver a better product than his competitors. He has to make more money than his competitors, and that money has to be invested into his business. So it's not that he is unselfish. He is selfish, perhaps in a different way, in a way that we may consider more acceptable. Otherwise, if we are purely unselfish, then surely we will fail, because others who are selfish will overtake us. Isn't that common sense?
Yes, that is the big problem. That is not correct. I wish I could change this thing. I wish I could tell every human being this thought is not correct. And it's not my wonderful notion that it's not correct. Our scriptures tell us that. Through tradition, through logic, and through experience, we can see this. So tradition, our scriptures say it, all scriptures say it, through logic. Think of the logic behind it. The law of life is that all agitations come from selfishness. The more the selfishness in an individual, the greater the mental agitation. This is a law of life. If any one of us think about any time that we were agitated, Was it not always boiling down to one thing, that I didn't get what I wanted? As long as there is selfishness in me, I will be agitated. This is law number one. Law number two is that the more the mental agitations, the less my intellect can function. Just imagine this. Suppose I put a string, a wire, get a wire, I put a proper bridge between two 40-story buildings, okay, and it's certified safe by the architect. Okay, there's plenty of room to walk. It's 3 feet. You can walk. Who will walk on that? 40 stories up there. Walking is not difficult. Then why won't we do it? Mind is agitated. Intellect cannot think. Body cannot function. This is what happens in exams. This is what happens in interviews. This is what happens when you meet the girl you would like to go around with, or the boy you'd like to go around with. Mind is agitated. Intellect cannot think. When the intellect cannot think, this body cannot function. When the body cannot function, forget it, you're not achieving anything. So, the greater the unselfishness, the higher the productivity.
If I may ask, Janki, there is a question in Hinduism. Many people assume that that we have this notion of destiny. It's your karma. It's your destiny. It's your somebody passes away. They say it was written on his forehead. He had to go now. All of this stuff. How do you reconcile destiny with this description of this? And then I see Deepa has joined us. I'll turn back to her after you've answered this.
Okay. By a simple understanding that destiny is referring to the present moment. There is no destiny for the future. For the future, it's karma. Destiny means you and I are here. This moment means that everything that we have thought and did at this moment has culminated in this action.
This was destined to be. This moment was destined.
Not it was destined. This moment is destined. This moment is called destiny because everything that I have done in my past has culminated to this moment.
Right.
Now I still have a choice of what to do. So my tomorrow is going to be the continuity of my past modified by my present action. So whatever I did in the past, modified, added, subtracted, whatever I do in my present action will be my tomorrow. So there's no such thing as destiny for the future. This is a crazy notion. In fact, I'll tell you, Deepa, sorry, I'll just add one idea. The word for destiny and the word for nature in Sanskrit is the same word. Prarabdha is destiny, prarabdha is nature. Through language, you can understand what they're trying to communicate to us. Okay, Deepa.
Gosh, there's so much more to talk about. So much more to talk about. But Deepa, you're here.
So we got hundreds of questions ahead during registration time. We wanted to pick 2 best questions and give Jankiji's book. And Dr. Shashi Tharoor was kind enough to select those 2 best questions, and he's going to read them out for us.
Well, to be honest, you sent me 10 out of the 100. And I have to say they were all outstanding. It was a very, very difficult choice to make because these are questions that are intelligent. There are questions that are often emotional and anguished. And they're questions that many of us would have. So I found it difficult to choose 2. I chose 2 because I think they are perhaps questions that most people would have. So the first one comes from Arinjay Bhosle, who says, as a human being, the first and most important thing we all have to do in our lives is to take care of our own survival. How can one achieve the peak of human potential? By taking care of oneself's survival, dealing with all the pressures of it not being affected by it. So that's also our dharma, isn't it, Jankiji? To go back to our conversation tonight, it is something which actually is our duty to do. We must look after our family, our parents, our children. We must educate our children. We must do our job well. All of these things. Just as Arjun had to fight Kurukshetra well. So if we're doing all that, where do we have the time for self-realization beyond it? I think that's a good question from Arinjay Bhosle. Would you like to answer it? I'll come to the second one.
Yes, definitely. You're so right. We have all these things to do. But think of it. Think of it like this. A peon goes to work. When he goes to work, he has to do whatever work the peon is supposed to do. But he has a choice of what is going on in his mind. He can go to work to get that salary check. He can go to work thinking, I want to serve my organization. He can go to work thinking that, this business is doing so much good, it's helping the progress of our nation. He can go to work saying, this is my contribution to humanity. He can go to work saying, I'm doing this to realize the self. So, what your actions are, we all have to do whatever we do. But what our vision is makes all the difference to the quality of our life and to the productivity of our actions. So, yes, we have to do all these things. Every one of us has to do it. We all have to have baths and eat food and look after things and, hundreds of things in the day. But I have to ask myself this question: why am I doing it? And when my vision goes higher, I will not only shoot up in life, I will shoot up happily. Now, what is happening is, even if I'm able to make my ends meet, I'm not able to sleep. I get all sorts of lifestyle ailments. What on earth am I doing? When will we learn? Look at what our predecessors have gone through. See what's happening to everybody. Do you want that? Then the only change that we need to make is what is our vision behind whatever we need to do. And if we can change that, you got the bull by the horns.
See, with Janki ji, for me, I'm sorry, Deepa, to keep you waiting for
Yeah.
the second question. But for me, I would say that I've, as a young boy, I asked myself the question, what am I doing on this earth? Why am I here? Why are we all here? And the answer I found was, I'm here to make a difference. That if I don't have an impact on anyone around me or on the world around me, the country around me, the city around me, whatever, for the fact of my being here, then my being here would serve no purpose. Why am I here at all? And therefore, I devoted myself to doing that in whatever work I did, whether it was trying to make an impact through my ideas, my writings, my speeches, whether it's trying to make an impact through my personal relations, whether it was trying to make an impact through my profession, through the work I undertook in my profession. All of those were about making a difference in the world. That was my purpose for being. Now, is that a selfish purpose? Because after all, it is linked to ego, it is linked to my consciousness. That this is what keeps me going. This is why I wake up every morning looking forward to seeing what I can do that will make a difference, right? So I have a vision which is of the larger good, of the betterment of society, the betterment of my country. And when I was at the UN, if you like, the betterment of the world. But as an individual, it's still about me. So I'm not sure I've shed selfishness or ego, even though I have that vision you're talking about. So all of us have, at the same time, I have a rent to pay. I have children to educate and their school fees to be paid. I have family to look after, obligations, and I have to fulfill those too. I can't be irresponsible about them. So all of those things are, by any common understanding of the term, selfish. They don't seem to be linked necessarily to the kind of aspiration you are laying out to us.
Not really. In fact, you should be a good example to everybody. You had that vision, so look at where you've reached. If you didn't have that vision, you would not have reached where you are. And if you are able to increase that vision, then you will reach, God alone knows where. So the whole thing is based on what you thought you were doing. In fact, you have only proved my point. Now, this whole idea of unselfishness is not only a point. When a person thinks only of himself, thinking of his family becomes unselfish for that individual. When he's thinking of the family, when he starts thinking of the community, then that becomes unselfish for that individual. When he's thinking of the community, but he starts moving to the nation, then it becomes unselfish for that individual. For somebody like Gandhi, who always thinks of the nation, thinking of humanity would become unselfish. It's not a point, it is taking that one step forward. And if we can keep on doing it, then to the extent we do it, we will find greater fulfillment, greater productivity, and greater everything. You're able to sleep at night. You don't get all these lifestyle ailments. You take care of your body because you owe your body a responsibility. You just do the whole picture properly.
Well, I haven't got there yet, so I'm clearly a very unrealized being. I'm sleeping terribly. But anyway, the second question from those who wrote in is from Shobha Krishna, who says, how do sages and seers gain insights just by remaining isolated and away from everyday, daily, worldly affairs, mundane affairs? Now, I think she's a very good question, because while you seem to be somebody quite anchored in the kind of reality, the kind of vocabulary, the kind of life, even looking at the bookshelf behind you. Most people's image of a Hindu sage or a Hindu philosopher is some guru in ochre robes with a long and unkempt beard, cut away from worldly civilization. Some of them are living in trees, some in caves, some in ashrams. They don't have Wi-Fi or the internet or telephones. They're just lost and immersed in their thoughts and in their self-realization. But then, how on earth do they relate to people who are actually dealing with all these daily concerns, who are living this daily life? How can we gain insight? Or rather, Shobha Krishnan more politely asks, how do sages and seers gain insight when they're not living the life that other people are living?
It's a great question. It's a great question. Even I had liked that question a lot.
All these 10 questions are great ones. Yeah.
They were great. Yeah. The big thing in life is that समझदार को इशारा ही काफी है. The smarter you are, the less you need information. The less smart you are, the more information you require to come to the same conclusion. So let's say intellects are of 4 levels. The highest level is he sees it, he gets it. The second level is he has to be educated, he has to be taught, and then he'll get it. The third level is even after education, he doesn't get it, but when he goes through experience, he gets it. And the fourth level is even after experience, they don't get it. They are going to go on repeating the same thing over and over again. So there are these 4 levels. So at the highest level, in fact, if we want to develop a good intellect, that's the trick of it. Learn to reflect. Little knowledge and more thinking. We define study in Vedanta as 20% reading and 80% thinking. Because you just read a book. You go through the book. The book doesn't go through us. So we continue to be the same person we always were. So the more time we spend with it, the more time we think about it, we apply ourselves. Is this true? We don't take things for granted. We question it. Is it true? If it is true, how is it true? Or why is it true? Have I understood this whole notion properly? If I reflect upon an idea, that idea becomes me. It's the difference between an elephant carrying hay on his back, which is a burden, which knowledge is for most people, or he's eaten that hay, which is now his nutrition, and he will grow with that. So what we recommend is daily morning study on the scriptures, on the books we do, so that the intellect grows. We are not here to collect information, but to become a different person. So how do the seers know? They take little information and they think and think and think, and it becomes crystal clear to them. Now you take any question to them and they answer it.
Okay, well, there is one more question from the audience, from those who've written to us, which I thought is worth asking, even though I suppose as number 3, he may not get a free book from you.
No.
I'll leave that to Deepa. It's from Naman Jain, and it's not so much the first part of his question, but the second part, because it brings to an end our conversation about human potential for today. And that is, how do we know that we don't have the potential for something? He says, how do we know when to stop trying for a particular thing and that we're not meant for that? Or that we don't carry, I'm using his words, carry the potential for something? That's Naman Jain. And it's an interesting question because we talk about fulfilling human potential, but we've actually not discussed the fact that perhaps each human being has a different level of potential, a different capacity to fulfill that potential. And if that is so, how does the individual know when to stop trying? That's Naman Jain's question.
Okay, so firstly, yes, all our body, mind, intellects are different, so its capacities are different. However, Naman, if you are dedicated to your ideal, there is no reason for you to stop. You don't need to worry, do I have the potential? Because you are a human being. You can do whatever it is you wish to do. If you're not able to do it, find better methods, think of other ways, find out so many other things. Life is full of options and full of choices. Find out, why am I not able to do it? What did I not do? Which stone have I left unturned? Think it through. Don't worry, do I have potential or not? That is not for us to think. Our job is to do what we think is the right thing. And nobody in the world knows what they are capable of until they actually do it and put their heart and soul behind it. And if you know that you have left no stone unturned and you still haven't got it, then the call is yours. What do you want to do? You can still try or you can stop. It's entirely your call. But you don't have to worry, do I have the potential for this? I mean, what is the gentleman's name who invented Edison? Edison invented the light bulb. Did he ask himself this question, do I have the potential? He just kept doing it. He failed and failed and failed. He just kept doing it. So just keep doing it. Improve the method. Think about the method. Improve the method and just keep doing it. At any point, this choice is yours and yours alone.
So when you decide you can't do it anymore, that's the limit of your potential. But suppose it's your mind that's deciding that, your intellect that's deciding that. I think this is a conversation you will have to pursue further. I'm just being a bit mischievous and saying how difficult it is to know. But I think you've given Naman some encouragement. Keep trying until you can't get any further. Sorry, Deepa.
Yeah, thank you, Janki ji, for answering those 3 questions. Shashi, can you show the book that they're going to get it?
There we go.
That's the copy all 3 of them will get, not just the 2 of them. And the rest of the questions which are unanswered, which are hundreds of them, not to be disappointed, because we have interactive sessions Thursday through Sunday based on different texts. You can pick and choose your subject of interest, and please do attend our classes. It's open for all. Now, especially because of the pandemic, it's online. I hope Janki ji will continue keeping it online for people like us who don't live in Mumbai. Please contact Bharat. He will be giving his number on the flyer. Yeah, there. Contact Bharat, enroll, and just come and attend her classes. And Shashi, do we have any time to take some live audience questions?
I am actually out of time, but I'm enjoying this so much. Why don't we do another 5 minutes and get a couple of questions?
Yeah, sure. You take the questions.
Well, where are the questions?
Maybe you can pick from the list that you have.
Oh, from the hundreds of questions you sent. All right. Well, there's one from N. Chongloy who says, how do I know what I know is truly correct? And I think there's interesting dimensions to that question, which is, what is truly correct? Because when he's saying, how do I know that what I know is truly correct? He's saying, this is what I know, which I presumably have acquired either through reading or intellect or thinking or experience. And at the same time, I don't know if it's correct or not. So how do I know it? N. Chongloy is the question.
This is a human dilemma. Sometimes we will never know. Therefore, a human being is a person who always remembers that I may never know. And therefore, I don't get fanatical about any idea because the ultimate truth is not available to human beings. However, I can use my discrimination on this thing. That is why Indian epistemology gives 4 pramanas. There are 4 ways by which you should have got the knowledge, either through your sense perception, or through inference, or through comparison, or through tradition. Now, each one of them have their own tests to find out, did I get this correctly from whatever source I got it, because your senses can fool you. So have I got it correctly? I need to apply the test to get it. I've inferred, so there are tests to know whether this inference was correct, or I've got it through comparison. I said it's like this. This is like this, so it's probably like that. So there are tests for that. In fact, the book How Do You Know What You Know is actually on that, on how do you really know. So you go back to your source of knowledge and figure out whether you have got this knowledge in the right manner. Always knowing that perfect knowledge and full knowledge is not available to human beings. Therefore, it makes an argument for never being fanatical about anything. Many years ago, I thought something was wrong, and today I say that was wrong. And today I speak with so much confidence. How do I know? Tomorrow I won't be saying that what I'm saying now is wrong. I have to keep that as my witness when I think any thought.
Well, I mean, I accept the 4 This is a perception, inference, comparison, and the authority of either tradition or gurus or whatever. What about experiences? There's a wonderful line that I sometimes use, not from Hindu philosophy, that says that good judgment comes from experiences, but experiences that teach you often come from bad judgment. So good judgment results from your earlier bad judgment. What about the role of experience as well in
Well,
fashion?
one quote deserves another, I guess. So let's take the quote from Mark Twain. He says, "A cat having sat on a hot stove will never sit on a hot stove again. But then she will never sit on a cold one either." So, what we learn from experiences is entirely dependent on how we thought about the experience in the first place. So there is no separate way of learning from experiences, because what we learn or don't learn from an experience always depends on how we are thinking. If we are thinking that a particular community is very bad, almost every experience will convince us this. And if we think a particular community is very good, then almost every experience will convince us that. It's called self-sealers. No matter what happens, my conclusion stays the same. So experience is only as good as your intellect. If your intellect is bad, your experience teaches you nothing.
Now, what about unconscious bias? My sister actually lectures on this all the time, so I have to refer to her, Smita Tharoor. That's her area of expertise. But surely our unconscious biases, whether it's racial prejudice, gender prejudice, cultural assumptions, all of these things, these are also part of the equipment with which we relate to the world, whether it's our perception, whether it's our comparison, whether it's inferences we draw. And your cold stove, hot stove thing actually is also, once that cat has been burned once, the cat doesn't draw a distinction between the heat that burned her and the stove from which the heat came, and therefore the stove is bad, which is now an unconscious bias against stoves. How do you relate unconscious bias to the spiritual quest?
It is non-application of intellect. So
Uh-huh.
when you don't apply your intellect, you're going along a track which is already laid down. Applying your intellect means not taking anything for granted, not what others tell me, and not even what I think by myself. So the big question is, how will you even question what you're thinking? And that's which is the first step of the spiritual path, which is satsang. Be in the company of the wise, in the company of people who have some brains, because some of that will be my environment and it will make me question. If I'm always with people who are daft, I'm going to be there. I mean, everything daft in me is going to be, what shall I say, um, cabareted. And if I'm in the company of the wise, then all the good thoughts in me will get emphasized. So starting the process is be in the company. In what TV programs do you watch? What books do you read? Who are the people you deal with? Is there any wise person around? Be more and more with that book or that person or whatever.
Thank you so much, Janki ji. I've really enjoyed talking to you and I've learned a lot. I hope those who are listening in have also felt that benefit. Deepa, back to you.
Yeah.
Thank you
Thank
so
you
much.
Janki ji, for the wonderful session for you've given. Achieving human potential, not only success, but with happiness. Those of you who want to know more about this life and living, please attend Janki ji's classes. Her pleasant disposition and her immense patience with our dumb questions, you will never ever want to skip a single class of hers. Thank you so much for all that you're contributing, Janki ji. Thank you, Shashi, for your time.
Thank you so much, Deepa, Shashiji. Thank you.
Thank you both. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.